isn't like our Oxford at all. You need to be careful.
I know where the witches are vulnerable.
You have something important to do. You're living for nothing.
Hello, welcome back to my channel and welcome back for another His Dark Materials episode review because, well, that episode was rather emotional and it's rather funny seeing people who haven't read the books or haven't read all of the books be confused why everyone is crying about a bench. And it's really funny because obviously if you've not read the books, I do not recommend you watch my videos because I am a book reader of this series and I love the books, and I'm going to be talking about the show in relation to the books. So if that is not your experience and you haven't read the books and you don't want to be spoiled for the rest of the seasons, stop watching now. But okay, first of all, I'm wrapped in this quilt that my nan made for me, basically because I'm a bit cold and it's cute, it's a bit chilly and I feel I want to be cozy for this video, so here we go. So the first thing that I want to mention is the bench. Now, I can't imagine that Jack Thorne and Jane Tranter, who love this series so much, will give us a scene on a bench in the Oxford Botanical Gardens and it not be the bench from the end of Amber Spyglass, because I always wondered like how they would have known that they were on the right bench, you know, in their respective worlds. But this episode and Pan saying I like it here, or was it Lyra? But oh my god, I just got emotional, and we saw some of this scene actually in a preview that HBO Max released onto YouTube, and so I was preparing myself all week mentally for it, and even with the preparation, knowing that it was going to happen, it still was a bit much for me, I will say that. But honestly, it was such a great episode, and I think the changes and the additions that they've added in so far, I absolutely love them. I will mention them specifically as we go along. As always, I do a tweet thread on Twitter, so if you want to see my reaction to it as it happened, you can go over onto my Twitter and see that, but I'm just going to use it as a prompt so that I can sort of tell you what I thought, because I have only just finished, we only just had the episode like half an hour ago. So, first of all, the recap was pretty intense. Anyone else? That was already intense for me, so you can see the type of person that I am. Dramatic and sensitive. Okay, so the fact that Boyle, Charles Latram, whatever you want to call him, was just waiting outside of the gate where the window is and literally saw them leaving and literally followed Lyra to the Pitt Rivers Museum. I wasn't a fan of that one emotionally. It was a great thing to add into the TV show, but emotionally, Ashley did not handle that one well. I loved it though. I still think the title sequence is incredible, so A+ for that one. The fact that they run up to that fence and Jordan isn't there and Lyra is obviously distraught because this place looks like her Oxford but also doesn't look like her Oxford, and it isn't her Oxford, and her home isn't there. That is really sad and emotional. That bit really got me, and I don't think there was a bit like that in the book to do with Jordan, and if there was, I don't think Lyra was as upset about it. So yeah, that one got me right in the feels, as they would say. The funeral for the cardinal, I thought was incredible, and I liked how Boreal was late to it because he's been flapping around in our world but he hasn't told anyone about it, not even Mrs. Coulter. And can we just, Mrs. Coulter's look this episode was impeccable. You can say whatever you want about that woman, but you cannot say that she doesn't dress fabulously. And I saw someone on Twitter actually mention this, that it was a nice sort of parallel with her costume and the witches' costumes this season. The two costumes look rather similar, and I think the costume team deserves some round of applause because I think it was great. Absolutely wonderful. This is such a good show. It's such a good show. Okay, and I just wrote, don't tease my emotions like that. The Botanic Gardens, more like Ashley's heart is broken. Yeah, so when he was like, meet me at the Botanic Gardens, Will getting a lot of messages from his mom. That was so cute. And Lyra reading the alethiometer in this episode, I thought it was wonderful. Because back in season 1, towards the end of it, we didn't really see how she was interacting with the symbols, and in the book there's a lot more focus on what symbols she's using and what the symbols symbolize and all that stuff, and we never really got that in the first season of the TV show, but we got it a lot this episode, and I just thought it was very good. And the alethiometer looks great. I love it. And I just wrote, Lord Boreal is so effing creepy. And Rach and Faye from Her Dark Materials podcast have been talking about how like he's rather sinister and pedo-y in the book, Boreal in the scene, but oh my god, seeing it on screen was so weird, and seeing Aaron Bakari do that like sickly sweet smile, but like with the like undertones of was just so spot on. And I really am interested to see what they think about that. I just wrote Elaine Part Parry and some crying eye emojis because she is the most wonderful, wonderful, wonderful woman. So sweet. So I said Rita and Serafina are a power couple if I ever saw one. Now this is something that Rach and Faye definitely would agree with me on. They love Rita and Serafina's relationship. I think it's rather interesting, and I like how they're slightly changing it up. They're a lot more at odds with each other than they were in the book, but still iconic. And then I just wrote, here she comes, Dr. Mary Malone, because we love a queen, an independent woman queen who turns out to be the snake from the Story of Eden. But anyway, we love it. We'd love to see Dr. Mary Malone finally on our screens. We've never seen you before on screen, and we love you. And I think Simone Kirby, that's just her name, almost forgot, bad fan, she is doing Mary Malone very, very well. And I just thought, poor Thorol. Poor Thorol. What a sweet man. I wrote, oh my, Boreal is fantastically evil and I love him. And this is in relation to when he's like, I wonder where your daughter is. Has her demon settled yet? And Mrs. Coulter is just there like, loved it. And they're in a court scene. I just thought, oh no, not Dr. Lanselius. Dr. Lanselius is iconic, and I have lots of thoughts about him, especially after reading Serpentine. And well, I don't like what they did to him. Like, by them, I mean the Magisterium. I think adding this scene was wonderful, but I don't like the Magisterium, and I don't like that they did that to him, and I don't like what they did to the witches either, and Mrs. Coulter is like, when that man is going on, was going on a rampage, one of the like magisterium men going on a rampage about how the witches abandon their children and how unwomanly and how horrible it is, and Mrs. Coulter's just sat there like, does anyone know about my daughter? No? Okay, well, we'll leave out. And that man is got a spider demon. No. That's horrible. Especially that creepy crawly type of spider. Horrible, horrible, horrible. Well, and I wrote they better not touch Dr. Lanselius. Then when Will finds out from the lawyer that he has grandparents, I just wrote his grandparent. We all know that they probably can't be trusted, but one thing that we have to talk about this episode is how goddamn beautiful the cave is. And this is one part of the books that I never could like picture in my head very well. I always, every time I get to that part, I'm like, how do I picture this? And the cave was absolutely beautiful, and I loved how the lines of the dust down when it was just like settled, like not using it, just are exactly how the worlds look in the intro. And I just love how cohesive the feel and the iconography and the literally the dust of the show, the particles that make up the show, they're so intricate and perfectly they all, you know, they all come together very, very well. And I just loved how the cave works, and how it looked, because I never could imagine it in my head, but I think it looks beautiful, and it's like baselines that are just like going down. They literally are those, like, you know, the sections of the world that we get that like spin around in the title sequence. And I think it's in the audio description they call it tendrils of dust, and I thought it was wonderful. In the middle of the episode, I was missing Lee. We all know Lee Scoresby is my man, my husband. Don't tell my boyfriend. I miss him a lot. And then again, that damn bent. And I just wrote, Father McPhail is one creepy, creepy man. That man is a creepy, creepy man. And I almost feel sorry for these people and how much they give to something that they don't know is true, and how their faith has corrupted them. Like, I almost feel sorry for them. I don't, but I almost do. And I think it's really interesting because we see in the end of Amber Spyglass what Father McPhail ends up doing and how much he gives for the magisterium and for the authority. I think it's sad. It's really sad. And this sort of allegory of the Catholic Church that people don't like, that the book series and the movie even so was criticised for, I think the allegory is perfect, and I think religion can be a beautiful thing, but organised religion, as Philip Pullman sort of tells us in this series, it's very easy to corrupt it. There is a lot of people who are good people, but with power comes corruption, and yeah, I think it was really good. And I think all the magisterium stuff that they're adding in is so great, because this is something we never got to see, because obviously it's not Lyra's point of view. We just see how it like sort of comes to a head at the end of the last book, and it's rather interesting seeing how that is coming to a head. I think it's really, really good, and I think some people don't like it because I've seen a lot of people saying that they covered a lot but they didn't cover a lot. And by that, they covered a lot in the episode. Like, we talked about a lot of things and a lot of things happened. But in the book, we actually didn't cover that much. We covered maybe one chapter. But Thorol's demon is the cutest demon I have ever seen. Hands down. I'm sorry. I don't know what his demon's called. But that dog, it's adorable. I was very emotional at the fact that they burnt the witch's land. And it just shows you like how far the people in control will go to keep their power and what they will destroy in the process of it. And I think, I don't know whether this is purposeful, but I mean, like, there's a real allegory there between people in our world that have so much power and influence and money, and to keep that, they will destroy everything that is good in this world. And the billionaires that, you know, so much at fault to how devastatingly bad our climate crisis is. And I think this show and this book series hits so many nails on the head with allegory of our modern society and the issues that we face currently. And even though it was written 20 years ago, all the problems that it focuses on are problems that we still have, and problems that in some regards are even more of a big deal now, like global warming, because global warming is touched on quite a bit. But, you know, 20 years ago, 25 years ago, in the 1990s, it wasn't such as bad problem as it is now. And I also wrote, Father McPhail's first name is Hugh. I don't know whether I should laugh. I think it's funny. I just think how Marissa, she walked in there and she was like, ha 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 ha, I did this for you. I made you in power, and so now you'll let me do whatever I want. Hugh, goodbye. I just thought it was great, and as much as we hate her, we also love her and how she as a woman has done so well for herself in a man's world, if you catch my drift. And the end of the episode, that was a power walk and a half, wasn't it, my lads? It was intense. Very, 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 very intense. And the preview for next week's episode, I will put it in at the end of this episode. But Jesus Christ, we will see Lee with Mrs. Coulter. That doesn't happen in the books. I'm rather interested to see how they're going to do that, because everything that they've added in so far, even in the last season, that hasn't been in the books, I thought was good, and I also liked lots of the changes that they made. So I hope that I like this change. I hope that they don't ruin it, and I have trust and I have faith in them. But you know, when you've had a fandom and it's been ruined by adaptations, you get a little bit worried about it. So I'm a little bit worried about that. I'm intrigued how Yorick is going to be in next week's episode and what Yorick is up to, because we only see him in Amber Spyglass. We don't see him at all in Total Life. So I'm rather interested as to what Yorick is doing and why we're seeing him now. But I think next week's episode might be a lot more action. We might progress through the book a little bit, because Lyra's going to go back to see Mary, and we're going to get all this stuff with Mrs. Coulter and Lee and Yorick and witches, and wow, I am so happy with the way that the show is going, and I'm so glad that we're getting a faithful to the message adaptation. See, I think I've spoken about this a lot when I talk about adaptations, but one time John Green made a video and he was talking about, I think he was talking about the Looking for Alaska movie, it might have been, or even Tiffio, and he was saying that he doesn't mind if his stories gets changed or the characters have a different colour hair or whatever, because when it comes to adaptations, what he wants is an adaptation that will get the message and the theme and the feeling of the book right, and it doesn't have to perfect every single sort of like plot point, that as long as it sends the same message as his book does, he's okay with changes. And Philip Pullman has the same attitude. Like, he says, you know, obviously it's very different for TV and for book. It's a different thing, and different things work than others. I think it's still worrying as people who have been slightly mistrusting of adaptations of this series because of how awful that film was. I think, yeah, we all get a bit worried when we see things that we don't expect from books, but I do think that on their own they are doing a very good job, and I've seen a lot of people who haven't read the books be so endeared to the story and the series and the messaging behind it, and I do think that you don't get the full deep message of the series without reading the books and doing some extra reading, which not everyone has to do, obviously, but I do think that the show is doing such a good job at discussing those things. And yeah, so I will leave it here, but before I close the video, let's watch the preview.
We are facing devastation on a scale not seen in centuries.
Lyra, are you in trouble? Do you need help? You are not endearing yourself to me, Mr. Scoresby.
Okay, thank you very much for watching. Please let me know your thoughts of the episode down below. What are you excited for seeing next week? Do you like the changes that they're doing? Do you like them added in Magisterium bits? Please let me know. I'd love to talk to you. You can follow me on my His Dark Materials fan account if you like. It's at Ashley Has Faith in Lee Scoresby, because that man's, he is my husband. Don't tell my boyfriend. Okay, yeah, thanks for being faithful, and thanks for watching.